welcome to our session again on skill building with language learning. Before we get started with the major session, I just want to know where today's participants are coming from and what the background of the participants are. So, in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch a poll, and you can see that poll on your screen. Please use the poll to select whatever applies to you the most. If you are a school leader, please go ahead and tap on school leader. If you are a teacher, please go ahead and tap on teacher. If you are a school coordinator or an academic coordinator or a principal, please go ahead and click on that. I will keep this poll on for maybe 20 more seconds so that we give everybody a chance to vote. I see that we have some votes that have already come in for teachers. Thank you. So many teachers have shown up. I hope this session will help you out. Teachers, see a school leader has joined in. Again, I welcome everybody. I'm going to leave the poll on for 10 more seconds so that we give everybody a chance to vote. I'm going to publish the results. So as you can see, we have a lot of teachers here today. So again, I welcome all the teachers. I welcome everybody else here with us. So let's move on to with the session, right? What are we going to look at today? What are we going to learn? So the major topic is language learning and the skills that we can develop with language learning and how we can promote language learning in our classrooms, right? So let's look at what exactly we'll be looking at in that topic. So the first one is going to be just understanding what language learning is. I'm sure everybody does language learning in any form or another, right? Like there may be some English teachers here, there may be some regional language teachers here, there may be some teachers that teach social studies or science, and even in such subjects, you have to teach difficult words, difficult dates, difficult names. So in one way or another, we are all language. We all teach language, right? So we just want to know what exactly language learning is, and of course, why it's important to have a focus on language learning in schools. Moving on, the next objective for today is to examine a few strategies, a few tips and tricks, and a few approaches that you as a teacher can implement in your classroom that can help the students improve their language skills, and not just improve it but also start developing those language skills as well, right? Lastly, and definitely not the least, especially in 2024, we'll just explore a bit on the use of technological tools and any other virtual devices that you may have handy in your school or with you, and we'll see how these tools can help you promote, develop, and enhance language learning in your classroom. All right. So before we start off with the big chunk of the lesson, I want to launch one more poll, which will just help me understand what kind of diverse language learning experience we have among our participants right now. So I'm going to launch a poll again. Please tap on the one that you find the most appropriate for you. The question is, how many languages can you speak? Right? If you speak one language, please go ahead and vote one. If you speak more than one, there are other options for you. Everybody has voted 3 or 4 plus. That is amazing. That is amazing. So a lot of multilingual folks around here. That's great. That's great, folks. Folks, there is also a Q&A button right below. If you're using your phone or your laptop or your tablet, on the bottom of your screen, you'll find a little question mark. Please click on that and please let me know how many languages you speak, because not knowing three or even more than three languages is very difficult. And if you go to places like the USA or even further, even west into Europe, a lot of people do not know more than one or maybe two languages. But here we know at least three languages, and a lot of people, in fact, know more than four. So please use that Q&A button with the question mark on it to tell me and tell everybody else what are the languages that you know. So I'll get started off. I know English, as I'm speaking right now. I'm from Kerala, so I know Malayalam. I have lived in Tamil Nadu, so I know Tamil. I've been in Bangalore for the last 21 years, so I know Kannada as well. And of course, we live in India, where a lot of us speak Hindi, so I try my best to understand Hindi. So just like that, if you could tell me what are all the languages that you know, it would be great. Okay, Kannada, English, and Hindi, great, great. Kannada, Telugu, English, Hindi, Tamil. Wow, that's so, it's so beautiful to hear. India diversity, unity in diversity. Again, English, Telugu, Hindi, Kannada, Tamil. That's amazing. So, participants, teachers, school leaders, please continue putting this down in the Q&A section. I'm sure everybody would love to hear it. So I just want to take this and ask you one question, right? Why did you learn these many languages? What is the purpose of learning these many languages? Because we grew up in our household, we listen to our moms and dads, our mothers and fathers speak in maybe one, maybe two languages. But I see that 6 out of 15 people that voted know more than four languages, and 9 out of 16 that voted know at least three languages. What is the reason for learning so many languages? Right. So again, use the Q&A section and put it down so that we know why you learn so many languages. I see that a participant has mentioned that they know Hindi, English, Kannada, Tamil, Telugu, Marathi. Any more, ma'am? I won't be able to count in my fingers. So please, folks, put it down on the Q&A section why you learned so many languages. I got one response. That means the very means of communication under diverse culture. Absolutely, ma'am. In India, where if you travel every 50 kilometers where people speak different languages, it is really important to be able to communicate with folks. Okay, school, great, amazing. I think even when you go to school, especially in cosmopolitan cities like Delhi and Bombay and Bangalore, you have your students and your colleagues or your co students that co-teachers, sorry, that speak different languages. So it's much easier if you know those languages to understand each other, communication to improve. Excellent, excellent. So we'll just take maybe one or two more responses. To mingle with the kids, absolutely, absolutely. I think there's that special feeling when somebody talks to you in your in your native language, and it just feels great and feels like you can connect with people more and you can be open in communication a little bit more. Great. Let's take one more response, folks. So on the Q&A section, please give us your thoughts, give us your insights. We really want to know why so many of you have learned at least three languages, which is incredible. Three languages is not an easy thing to learn. So please continue putting that in the Q&A section, folks. I will move on to exactly what you just mentioned. So many of you have learned at least three languages to communicate with each other, to promote diversity, to mingle with the kids. To I got one more response, to get connected with every person, to have a better atmosphere at school. These are just few of world of importance on why language learning is important, to as to why language in itself is important, right? So imagine if it's so useful for you, how useful if it could be if you are able to develop and nurture that in your students from such a young age across school. Imagine if you were able to develop that, drive that growth, and get your students into a global mindset in school itself, right? So that is exactly what we're going to do right now, right? We're going to learn why it's important and how we can develop that as well. So before that, I'll just give you a brief on what language learning is exactly. So as you can see, it's a process of not just developing it, but also acquiring the ability to speak a language, to understand a language, to read and also write a language. So it is not just speaking or it's not just understanding, even though that is a lot of what we do. It is also the ability to write, read, and of course, speak the language properly, right? And just so you know, like every other part of learning, it is not something that we can do only in school or only in tuition classes or only if you pay a certain somebody to teach you these languages. It can be in any form. For instance, I have lived in Karnataka for 20 years. I did not attend any Kannada classes from the get-go. The second I reached here, I just listened to people speaking in Kannada and I picked up Kannada myself. Similarly with Tamil and similarly with Malayalam as well. It's not something that I went to a classroom and learned. It is very informal. I just listened. I just asked a few doubts to people whenever I'm communicating with the shopkeeper or whenever I'm communicating with somebody in a bus or an auto. I just pick up few words. So it is not just formal. It's also very informal, and it is a very complex process. The things that go around inside your head, especially when you're learning two, three, four languages, it's very difficult. I'm sure you have all come across a scenario where you were speaking Kannada and a little bit of Tamil came out. Maybe you speak in Tamil and a little bit of Malayalam came out. So it is a very complex process, and it takes a lot of brain power to actually process and evolve. But at the same time, it is not something that stops after a certain age or after a certain process, right? It's something that keeps happening throughout your life. So school teachers here can especially attest to that. Maybe when you were young, you may have learned just one language. Then you grew up in school, maybe you had to learn another language or English or maybe even Hindi. And then you move to a different place, different city that speaks a different language, and you had to adapt to that situation. Maybe in the future, you're going to go to a different city, a different country, or maybe you just have a student that doesn't understand English or any language that you know. So you put that extra effort to learn. So, like every other part of learning, it's not something that stops. It is continuous, it is lifelong. In fact, maybe in even when you are 70, 80 years old, there is that spark in you that makes you want to speak a different language, that makes you have to speak a different language. So it's not something that stops, it is ongoing. Now, why is this important? And who is really driving the importance? Who is really driving who's really promoting language learning, right? That's none other than ourselves, by learning other languages, by speaking other languages, by accepting different languages. But also, you can see the government that has placed a heavy emphasis on language learning in NEP 2022. So let's just take a look at what NEP 2022 says about language learning. So here you can see that the importance of language learning as proposed by NEP 2022 is not just a very bare bones structure or a model. It includes key changes that includes multilingualism, having a three language formula, even foreign languages as a part of your formal education, and also early language education or early language development. So you can draw some connections here with ECCE, early childhood care and education, and foundational literacy and numeracy, right? Foundational literacy and numeracy just doesn't mean you are learning English, right? It also has to do with the development of different languages and literacy in different languages. So as you can see, what the importance is to speak to other people, to have to be a global citizen, to be able to communicate and understand the thought process of each other. But there are so many more importances as well. So let's take a look at that right now, right? What is really the importance or the benefits of language learning? So we have a lot of them here, but I think as you think of this a little bit more, as you go ahead and speak in different languages with different people, you will understand what it is exactly that the government and we ourselves are trying to promote using language learning. So first of all, it's communication. To be able to communicate with each other, especially in a country like India, where there are hundreds of different languages, you need to be able to speak to each other to get whatever done. You want to buy something from a shop, you want to go somewhere in public transport, you need to be able to communicate, right? Communication, number one importance. Second one is cognitive development. As I mentioned before, the process of language learning is not a very simple, it's a complex process. Learning multiple languages is not something your brain does very easily. It's a complex process, and it's an ongoing process that your brain keeps adapting to again and again. And what this does is it actually helps your brain, your mind, and your habits evolve to such a way that your mind is able to do a lot of calculations, think a lot of complex things, process a lot of complex emotions and feelings very easily. So language learning is also important in the cognitive development of a human being. Next, of course, as you know, as I just mentioned, the three language formula, multilingualism, and FLE, ECC, all of them, it pertains to formal schooling or education in the school. So in order to have high academic achievement, it is important that we learn languages that we have chosen or we have been given in school. Next one is higher career or education opportunities. As you know, in a country like India, where if we have to move from maybe Karnataka to Noida or Gurgaon, we may not have much use for Kannada. Maybe we'll have to speak in English or Hindi more. But as long as it helps you grow to get to higher paths, language is extremely important, because you will have to deal with different places in the workplace, in your school, in your colleges, and without that you really can't get through. You won't have a good time. So it unlocks better opportunities for higher education and your career. Of course, cultural appreciation. I'd like to club this point with another point that's coming ahead, that is empathy. So, cultural appreciation and empathy, these are things that come hand in hand. Without empathizing with the other person in front of you, you really can't appreciate or even understand what's going on in their head. And one of the best ways to get that information out of the other person is to speak in a language that both you and the other person are comfortable in. So, in case you are going down to, let's say, Andhra Pradesh, the best way to really connect with somebody would be using Telugu. If you are going to Punjab, then it's going to be definitely in Punjabi, right? So you'll not only be able to empathize with the other person using the new language that we speak or the common language that we speak, but also be able to understand what their situation is, what their cultures are like, why a certain festival is celebrated, why certain foods are eaten, why certain languages are spoken as well. So it is really important to develop that empathy using language learning, and overall an appreciation for different cultures that speak different languages, that eat different foods, that wear different clothes as well. So that is another point that I will bring up later. That's empathy. But before that, we also have empowerment. I think empowerment is incredibly important for you to be a self-sustaining human being, for you to have that power in within you to solve problems, to think critically, to communicate with the others, and to achieve your goals. I think language, especially in a place like India, is really important for you to have that power within yourself, empower yourself to go out there and conquer your dreams and your goals by yourself, right? The next one, as I mentioned before, develop empathy, just to be able to connect with different people of different cultures, right? Going forward, personal growth, and I think this is something, especially those that have mentioned that they know at least three languages, consider a personal achievement, right? Learning three languages, as I mentioned before, is not a simple task. I think good 40% of the world, they do not know at least three languages, right? Like you do. So I think for that personal growth, for that feeling of achievement, for that intrinsic motivation to learn more, to give more, to empathize more, language learning is really important to develop this personal growth. And last but not the least, being a global citizen or global citizenship, and this is again being emphasized by NEP 2020 so strongly, it is just to be at peace with different kinds of people. And the best way, as I mentioned, to do that is to empathize and to appreciate their culture. And what better way to achieve these cultural appreciation and empathy points than by speaking different languages. As you know, right, you go to a different country. I can give you an example myself. I was once in a different country, and I heard somebody speaking Malayalam, and I just felt so at home there, right? And the way that the other person made that environment for me, and that atmosphere for me to be comfortable in a different country altogether, it just felt great. So that is the ultimate goal of humanity, right? Like, I think it is to just be one among each other. And the best way to bridge that gap between different cultures, different people, different countries, different governments is definitely language learning. Now, as I mentioned before, this is not just um, these are not, I think we have around 8 or 9 importances or benefits, but there are so many more. And the more you speak, the more you think, the more you will come up and derive yourself the importance of language learning. Now, before we move on to some tips and some tricks and some strategies you can do to enhance language learning in your classroom, let's just see what language development is exactly, right? So under language development, we have two ambits or two different components that form language development as a piece. So the first one is skill, and the next one is competency, right? So let's just go into some detail around what a language skill development and what language competency development is, right? So to start off with skill, skill is the ability that you get from practice and learning. Again, learning, formal or informal learning, it happens regardless, right? So this is something that you get by practice and learning. And of course, it involves the use of your existing knowledge and techniques to accomplish certain tasks or say certain words or communicate certain things to people. I'll give you an example, right? Writing, problem solving, and playing a musical instrument and also driving, they are all skills. And you develop these skills by learning. For instance, driving, you have to go to a driving school. You need to be behind a wheel to learn how to drive, right? Similarly, if you want to play a musical instrument, if you want to play the guitar, you can't really just pick up a guitar and start playing, right? It will not sound good. You need to really focus and learn how to play it, and you need to practice so that you will remain good at it. So that is what a skill is. And in this case, primary examples of language development skills are writing, problem solving, reading, listening, right? Let's move on to what are competencies. A competency is not just a skill, but it is also the knowledge that we have stored in our big brains, the attitude and the behavior you show or you display, and of course it the entire whole ambit, right? Not just skill, but your entire it's a wholesome view of certain development. It is not just the skills, um, but it's also the knowledge that knowledge and behaviors that are and mindsets, of course, that are linked together to be successful in a particular domain or a pathway. Take some examples of this. Leadership is not a skill, right? Leadership is not just knowing how to manage people, but it's also to take the right decision. It's also to understand when things are not going right and to take different steps to change it. It's also, when you set a higher goal, you need to understand that certain things need to change. So you need to really be able to foresee that and make changes, and really empower the team to hit those targets. And they are not skills; they are also some attitudes and some behaviors, as well as some skills that you know. So it's a really wholesome view of a particular domain, right? So teamwork, of course, is one thing. It's not a skill that you can learn. It's just something that people have to really work on, and it involves behaving a certain way with others, speaking a certain way with others, and of course cultural awareness as well. Now we looked at what skill is, we looked at what competency is, right? But today's session focuses more on the skill bit, because the topic of today's session is skill building with language learning. So we're going to be looking at what some of these skills are that pertain to language development and how we can develop them, right? So let's look at a few skills that can be developed using language learning. So the first one is listening, speaking, reading, and writing. LSRW, as I put it here. Of course, the most fundamental skills that you develop while you learn another language is uh, listening, understanding, speaking, reading, and writing, right? As we all know. Next one is the analytical skills. And as I mentioned, it's a really complex process. Your brain goes through a lot of things when you learn a language that not just helps you read and write languages, but at the same time be able to compute more difficult computations, to express and to process better feelings, and to see things to read between the lines, and to see things that are not given to you, but you are able to just pick it out of the data, the information that are given to you. So these are all skills that are developed using the learning of languages. Next one is critical thinking, and I also want to put problem solving. I want to club these together because critical thinking and problem solving go hand in hand. Again, while learning a language, in the process of language learning, you not only understand the reason behind things, why things happen and how things happen, but also to fill in certain gaps that are missing, to solve problems in front of you, and as I mentioned, like with the analytical skills, you also develop critical thinking and problem solving skills as well. Of course, digital literacy as well. In 2024, one of the biggest tools to help us learn languages is your phone or your laptop or your TV. A lot of tools, but it basically guides you, basically gives you a pathway on to integrating technology into your life in such a way that it is useful and you are well aware of how to use it, how not to use it, what to use it for, and what not to use it for, and of course, the entire ethics behind things. Right? Last one is the research and note taking. And again, this starts in school itself when you're writing down notes to maybe to expand your vocabulary or to maybe understand subject verb agreement. So these are all tiny things that you take down just to refer to later, but when you grow up and as you start using that in college and in at your workplace, you start to understand the importance of how much of this skill that you learned at school while just writing down words that your teacher is saying, right? So these are some skills that you develop and that come under language skill development. Let's now go to what are some ways you can use to develop and enhance language learning in your classroom. But before that, I want to hear from you first. What are some strategies that you use? I see a lot of teachers are here, right? What are some strategies that you use, teachers, to facilitate or to enhance language learning in your classroom? So I'm going to put it down again in the Q&A. Please click on that question mark and please put it down and let us all hear your thoughts. If you want to come off mute, please raise your hand and we'll let you speak, because we want to hear teachers. Teachers are the core of language learning. So we need to be able to hear your thoughts. We need to also make this a very engaging lesson, right? So please come off mute or put it down in the Q&A session section. What are some strategies? What are some tricks? What are some tips? Maybe just what are some activities that you do to enhance language learning in your classroom? So I'm going to take the rest of 2 minutes in the first half of our session to get some responses and really understand what you teachers do to enhance learning. Okay, I see that Vandana ma'am, thank you for raising your hand. What I'll do is I'll just let you come off mute. Just one moment. I see some responses have also been put on the chat box. So I'll just, Vandana ma'am, I'm just going to allow you to talk. So now you have been given the permission to come off mute and give us your response. So Vandana ma'am, requesting you to come off mute. Please click on the microphone button, come off mute, and let us know what your thoughts are and how you facilitate language learning in your classroom. And while that happens, I'll just go back to the Q&A session, and I think we have some wonderful responses here.
Namaste,
Focusing,
sir.
yes,
Mm.
yes, Vandana ma'am, please, please.
Yes, sir. I use a sandwich method, which is first in English, then in the regional language, then again in English, like that, or it is reverse. First, I will explain the things in regional language, then in English, then again in the regional language, which will help the child to improve their vocabulary and in the same way understand the English also, improve their English learning also.
Great, ma'am. I think that's something that I think everybody wanted to hear or everybody wanted to have validated, right? The sandwich method, something that something that just is under our nose, but you don't really use it. Thank you so much for your input, ma'am. The sandwich method using
Thank
their
you, sir. Thank you so
the
much.
language. Thank you so much for your input, ma'am. Again, using the language that the students are comfortable in, and then the language you want to teach is a great way of not just enhancing vocabulary or help students understand certain words, the meaning of certain words. It is also to create that comfortable environment to really be confident to speak in a different language. So, Vandana ma'am, thank you so much for that tip. So, anybody else that wants to raise their hand and just like Vandana ma'am, give your input, please go ahead and do that. While we do that, I think we have received a few more responses on the Q&A section. I'll just go ahead, read all of them out. Focusing vocabulary curve, of course, you have to go from easy to hard. You can't give somebody a 10-syllable word that have a lot of, blends and lot of different, usage of consonants and vowels. It just won't happen. So you need to focus on that curve. Great. LSRW, yes, ma'am, absolutely. Speaking and listening activity, great. A conversation, a role play. We'll get to some of these later, but I'm so glad that teachers are already using so many of these tips and tricks. Rhymes and stories related to particular language. Regional language day is celebrated so that kids can learn different languages. Excellent. I think this is also so important to appreciate different languages, right? I think when somebody from, let's say, Gujarat moves to Tamil Nadu, where not a lot of people speak Gujarati, just to give that student an opportunity to speak about their language is so important. It fosters that culture of welcomingness and inclusivity and just promoting diversity in terms of languages. Thank you so much for your input there, ma'am. Stories tell about things, absolutely. Dodging with incorrect sentences wherein students realize the correction and I enact learning from them, great. I think one of the hardest things to do as a teacher is to correct, but you also need to understand that one of the most useful things to do as a teacher is also to correct students when they're wrong, so that next time onwards they understand and that learning curve starts, right? So definitely that student-centered learning, absolutely. Practice using languages, sustained motivation, and developing a positive identity as a user of the language. Absolutely, absolutely, Baswaraj sir. It's not just teaching that language or saying that, hey, this word means this in another language, but also to foster, to develop that feeling, that environment, and promote the learning of languages and developing a positive identity, as you mentioned. Vocabulary words, sandwich method, absolutely. Allow the child to speak in their comfortable languages. Great, great. Thank you so much, teachers. So much inputs and such engaging, interactions that we're having here. These are definitely some tricks and tips that we use. Please keep them in mind. If you're able to write it down, please go ahead and write that down as well. Okay, I see one more response: to create a homely environment class. Yes, comfort, encouragement is definitely one of the most important factors to learning language. Let's go ahead and look at some effective strategies that you can use in your classroom that you may or may not know. I think we have such a knowledgeable crowd here that I am very afraid that what I've given in this session will not be enough. But don't worry, while we are going to cover only few strategies here, in the handout that you will be given after this session, you will have 5 6 more strategies that you can use. You have many more resources as well that you can use, so please stay with us till the end of the session so that you can receive more strategies. But today we are going to be looking and focusing on two specific components or skills of language learning, that is problem solving and critical thinking, and we're going to look at two strategies under these as well. What are these strategies? The first one under problem solving is the strategy to use puzzles and riddles to drive problem solving and language learning, the use of interactive games to do the same. Moving on to critical thinking, we have facilitating creating scenarios for debates and role plays, and then very simple book reports. Right. So let's dive a little deeper into these strategies. Right. Starting off with puzzles and riddles. Puzzles and riddles, I don't need to explain. I think all of you know what it means, but these are just activities designed to challenge the mind and help students think in an alternate way, think outside the box, and to develop and to encourage the use of problem solving skills. And these puzzles and riddles are really really helpful in improving the vocabulary of your students, the spelling, and the pronunciation, and of course, as I mentioned, to think outside the box to solve a problem. What are some examples of puzzles and riddles? Crossword puzzles. So you know what a crossword puzzle is, where you have a grid containing different clues, and you have to use those clues to fill out the words, and it will form a crossword. And you have word searches, similar to a crossword, but it may not be interconnected like in a crossword. Logic riddles, you know what riddles are, just some questions that have a small clue, very tricky clue in them, that the students really have to listen and identify those clues to solve. Now, how can you do this using online resources? Because one of our objectives is to really understand or go through some virtual resources that can help you implement these tips and tricks in your classroom, right? So Puzzle Maker is a website, is a free website that you can use to create crosswords, to create puzzles and riddles as well. And they also have already created ones that you can just click on and use, and let your children, let your students solve on their time, on their free time, and they can even access it on their phones in their homes as well. We then have riddles.com. These are is just a repository of so many riddles that, when you're free Monday, when you have 5 minutes or 10 minutes or during lunch break, you can just open that and just ask these questions to have a little bit of fun with your students, engage their minds, and just to keep them on their toes. We have word search labs. These are some crossword puzzles that you can use to again, just give your students can take that in their free time. Similarly, you have your Merriam-Webster, you have your the New York Times, you have your Britannica. There are so many sites and so many journals that have crossword puzzles, word search puzzles, Sudokus, and so many other things that your students can, at their own time or as a part of your formal learning, take up themselves. And we have brain bashers. This is again something for riddles, tongue twisters, and brain twisters that gives you a repository of such activities that you can perform with your students. Now, the next strategy that we're going on to is interactive games. I think as a students, I love to play games. I think now, right now, if I had the time as a professional, I would play games as well. I sadly don't. But something that you can really get the kids interested in to learn something is using a game. So these are just some games that require the students to actively pay attention to the happenings of the game. And these are supposed to be a good blend of learning as well as fun. That means, I don't want to say it, but it's almost like you're tricking the students into learning by having fun, by having really neat movement, good graphics, good story behind them as well. There are so many out there, right? These games, apart from having fun, spending a lot of time, and maybe enhancing your motor skills, they also prove to be a great resource to help build vocabulary, to help build listening and speaking skills, grammar. And in interactive games, a lot of interactive games have to do with playing with another person, right? So it helps you build relationship, and also that speaking conversational literacy skills. What are some examples of these games? So we have language learning apps such as Duolingo, Hello English. Again, free resources that you can just download on your mobile phone or just visit the website and get started. We have board games like Scrabble and Boggle. These are games in which the students need to use a few letters that they have and form a word. And the better the word, the more complex the word, the more points that they get. You have online multiplayer games like Minecraft and Roblox, which students have to play with another person to solve different puzzles, to accomplish different things in the game. So really helps build that conversational skill, right? What are some online resources for this? As I just mentioned, Minecraft is a free game. You can download it on your laptop, on your mobile phone, on your tablet as well. You have Roblox, again, free, available across multiple platforms. You have Chimple. Chimple is an interactive app that has little games, such like word finder, like crosswords, that the students can really engage themselves in. You have Hello English. Again, it's mostly a live learning app, but then they also have homework that is targeted towards playing games to reinforce certain skills taught in the classroom. And of course, Duolingo has so many puzzles and challenges and tricks that help you develop speaking and reading and writing as well. So we've looked at two strategies that can help us with problem solving, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch a really quick role play. So this is a case study in which you are the teacher. What is the issue here, though? The issue is that you are the class teacher of class 9 of Mazar Public School, and the students in your classroom, they're not speaking English at all, right? So after some study, you found that the students are not confident about their abilities to speak. So let's say you're trying to get them to speak English, but they're not speaking in English. That is what is written, right? But after speaking to a few students, you find out that they're just not confident, right? So you are a class teacher. What are you going to do in order to help the students build confidence and speak in English in your classroom? So to help you, I'm going to start a poll. You have multiple options that I'm going to put out on the screen as well. Please select the best strategy that you think you can use to help build that confidence in your students. So the poll has started. Please click the one that you think is accurate. Of course, as usual, if you want to come off mute and give us your thoughts verbally, that would be amazing. If you have any strategies that are not a part of the poll, please go ahead and put that down in the Q&A section. We have so many, so engaging, right? So let's keep up that engagement, and let's see and hear and read your thoughts. So the poll responses I'm getting, have students play a multiplayer game. That is great, right? Like, have students play a multiplayer game that involve active communication that can help build confidence to speak that language. I see a lot that have also solved puzzles to improve vocabulary skills. And I think one of the best parts about improving your vocabulary skills is also the fact that you get so much confidence from learning new words. And just to be excited to use those new words, you get that confidence, and it's a boost. So a lot of you have also voted for that. So great. I'm just going to keep this open for 30 more seconds in case somebody wants to come off mute and somebody wants to put it in the Q&A section. I think you have two response already. Mother tongue intervention also helps. Absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely. Speak as I think Vinita ma'am had mentioned earlier. The sandwich method helps. Please use that. I would like to ask them all. I would like to ask them small speaking activities and giving them appreciation and continuous encouragement. Great, Vandana ma'am. Again, I think we're getting timeless, golden words of inspiration, information from Vandana ma'am right now. One of the best things to do is that positive reinforcement. When a student does something right, says something correct, answers something correctly, to go at that moment and appreciate them, tell them that hey, you're doing a good job, to create their environment, to let them know that I'm good, I'm enough, and I can speak up in class and have fun with it, right? To give confidence to students, to do it, not to neglect them. Absolutely, give everybody a chance. Everybody is here to learn. Everybody is, in that environment to learn. So please do not neglect them. Give them a chance. Sandwich method and mother tongue. Great, great, awesome, awesome. So of course, in the poll questions, a lot of you have said that you would have the students play a multiplayer game and also solve some puzzles. So, as I mentioned before, we already have expert, incredible teachers here, and these case studies and these problem solving activities are a piece of cake for you. So, thank you so much for engaging in this, teachers and school leaders. Let's move on to the next bit, that is your problem solving skills. Right? We looked at critical thinking, but now we're going to go look at debates and role plays. That's the first one under problem solving. So what is a debate and a role play? Debate is something that you divide the class into two parts. You give them a topic, one half speaks for the topic and the other half speaks against the topic. So let's say the topic is the use of AI in classrooms. One half will say why it's important to use AI in classrooms. The other one is going to say why it's not, why it's harmful, right? And role plays is just giving a scenario to the students and having the students play different roles, the roles of different people in that scenario. This is very helpful in improving listening, and to understand, to get information, to analyze information and respond, speak thoughtfully, and not just answer, say things, first things that come to your mind, right? What are some examples of this? Classroom debates, as I mentioned, the use of AI. Just split the classroom into two. One part of the class speaks on why AI is important in the classroom and why, and the other part of the class speaks about why AI is not useful. We have mock trials as usually done in law school, where you give a case. It can be as harmless as something like, okay, one student was caught eating in the classroom. Now you have to put that student through a trial, which is a very, in good humor. It's a really fun activity. You can have somebody role play a judge, somebody role plays the lawyers, the defendant and the plaintiff. And if you want to take it to a different level, you can also have the jury that listens and gives the verdict. That is one way you can facilitate debates and role plays. And of course, historical events like the Dundee March, the Boston Tea Party, and the French Revolution. So many scenarios you can use in different subjects, not just English, right? Or not just Hindi, not just Kannada. You can use it in science, in social science, in chemistry, in physics, and have language learning as a continuous process. Look, what are some online resources? We have procon.com, something that helps you give topics on debates and gives you some insights on debates, helps you facilitate them. Drama resource, similar, some place where it's a site where you can just get topics for debates, and gives you some information on how, as a teacher, you can facilitate these debates. Debate.org and Teach This is a site that gives you different ways of teaching certain topics. It may also give you the topic and tell you how you can use debates to teach this, how you can use role plays to teach this as well. So that is to do with debates and role plays. The next one is the classic. I'm sure everybody has done this before. As a child or as a teacher, you've given this as a homework to do a book report. So book reports are, first, it involves reading the book and then writing their analysis of the book, and then going in front of the classroom and presenting that report of the book, right? So it involves speaking, it involves writing, reading, understanding. It's the whole bit. And this is really helpful, not just to develop these skills, but also to develop that habit of reading, which I'm sure you all can agree is very, very important, not just as children, but also as adults, right? To help you keep that learning continuous, to help you get more information about different people, different cultures, different parts of time as well, right? So book reports, not only do they help you, in your comprehensions and your critical thinking and also your writings, and speaking skills, but also helps you develop that habit of reading. Some examples: written reports, presenting that written report, and last but not the least is to do book discussions. So book discussions are just I don't know how to put it, but they're groups. I'm sure you have seen on TV, but they're groups of few people that read a book, and on frequent days like Saturdays and Sundays, they come together and they discuss what that book was about. And this is a great place to really hear other people's insights, because I'm sure if you have taught Shakespeare, there are so many, you know, that there are so many different interpretations for a word. Like, you can see in Shakespeare, he may have written the curtain is blue, but to one person the curtain is blue means that, hey, the environment is sad and it's slow and it's sober and something tragic has happened. But to another person it just says that, oh, this person liked the color blue, so they put the curtain blue. So so many different interpretations. So a book discussion is a very important, very useful space to come together and really discuss different point of views and different aspects of a book. What are some online resources to do this? Goodreads.com, it's free, gives you unlimited access to so many books that you can download and read without internet. You can read on your phone, your laptop, anywhere that you want to. You can even print it out and read it as well. Book report templates. This is a site that you can get templates that you can give to the students, that they just have to fill in the blanks and get a complete detailed book report out. You have Read Write Think, similar resource as Goodreads. You have some, stories, some books that they can read, and they'll also be given some questions and some reflection questions on how to really interpret that book. You have Scholastic Book Wizard as well, that really gives people access to so many books. Right now, we looked at some strategies and some tips and tricks, but there are some other things that you need to consider while you're driving language learning as well, right? So, as all of you mentioned, you need to create a learning environment that is supportive and that encourages students to learn and not neglects them or that prevents them from learning. And you need to set clear language learning goals. You need to make the students understand that, hey, you are learning this language, you're learning this part of the language, you're learning this grammar, this word because of so and so reason. Because as students, when you start to teach them so many things, and as they grow and as they start exploring different paths, they it's really important to align that learning to the purpose of that learning. So you need to be able to set goals and providing authentic materials. That is, if you want to teach a story, or if you want to do some sort of a role play about something that happened in history, ensure that the source is strong and it doesn't mislead the students into believing that something else happened in history, or they have a different interpretation of it. Right, so provide authentic materials. Incorporate technology as much as possible. We looked at how you can use technology in this, right? But there are so many more resources, there are so many more websites, there are so many more tools online on your phone, on your laptop, that you can use to really drive language learning. One of the next things is to provide immediate feedback. As a few teachers in the session already mentioned, correct the students when they're wrong, or appreciate the students when they're right, and to just develop that environment of learning safely and also learning correctly. Celebrate language learning achievements. When somebody speaks new words, a new word, when a student uses a new word in a sentence, or they're able to say a few sentences in a different languages, celebrate that, and promote that, so that they understand that learning a language is not useless, it's not shunned, but it is actually promoted, and they should put more effort in doing this. Self-reflection, as NEP 2022 suggests, a lot of language learning is not just about speaking the language or understanding the language, but is also a lot about the intrinsic motivation and the reasons that specific individuals want to use it for. So promote that environment of self-reflection, and going back home and really thinking of what they learned, why they learned, and how they can use. And of course, continuously assess and adjust strategies. Right, you have a goal in mind, you have a strategy, but in the middle of the year you find that it's not working. You just can't expect the students to learn and just go with it, right? You, as a leader, as a teacher, you need to go back to the drawing board and really consider your strategy and understand why it's not working, and change it so that your students can meet the goals that you've learned for. So that these are some things that you need to consider while doing lessons or doing activities that have to do with language learning. Now, I have put a sample lesson plan here to just help you connect the dots. I'm sure you already know this. I'm sure all of you already use these skills and these tips and tricks in your classroom, right? But just to complete that loop, just to connect that dot, this is a sample lesson plan on how you can integrate language learning skills and activities into your everyday lessons. So as you can see, we are looking at a lesson plan of a grade 6 science class. It's not even English, it's not Kannada, it's not Hindi, it's not Telugu, it's not Punjabi, right? It's a science class, and it is the unit of water cycle. So let's just go through this lesson plan, and let's understand what exactly is this lesson plan doing to promote language learning. So the objective is to have the students match words to the descriptions of water cycle, also the processes in water cycles such as evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and collection. Right. So how we start off this lesson is by doing this water cycle in a bag experiment, where you take a plastic bag, you put some water in that bag, and then you tie up that bag and you put it out in the sun. And after a few minutes, you can see the droplets on top of the water, on top of the bag. So it is going to induce that curiosity in those students, and it'll have them think, oh, the water was down, how did it go up? So it's a great segue, it's a great intro, a hook to teach the rest of the lesson. And of course, the guided practice, or the bit that the teacher is going to do, is to really just draw out the water cycle, put the different processes out there, explain the different processes, and just by drawing out and writing all those words, it's a great visual form of learning and understanding. Now comes to independent practice, where we are really going to implement a few of the strategies, or one strategy rather, that we just looked at. Not only is it going to help the students learn about language learning, or not only is it going to help them learn about the water cycle, but also language learning is happening in that sense, right? So here I have just provided like a crossword that contains different processes, different words related to the water cycle. So as you can see, I've just provided three clues, one across, that means one going to the right, that is um, this one. It says drops on your window. So students are going to read that, they're going to understand what is the drops on your window. Oh, that's condensation. So they're going to fill in condensation over here. One trick that you can use here is, instead of making everything blank, you can write the first letters of each word to make that easy and to make it a little less challenging, right? For students that have difficulty, you can go ahead and do that, or you can add more letters as a clue as well. But for students that have that are slightly faster in learning, you can go ahead and leave that blank completely. And yeah, I've provided a few more clues. Two down says rising water, so they're going to think, okay, when water rises, oh yes, that is evaporation. So you go and put evaporation. Then six down, that is over here, as rain. It's falling water. Okay, they think, okay, what does falling water mean? For water is falling from the sky, it's rain. So they go to and put rain, right? This is just one example of how you can use a few of the strategies that we learned. But at the same time, you can use a role play, you can use a word finder, you can provide like a maze, and they can find different words in that maze that have to do with the water cycle. And there are so many other tricks, right? So this is just one specific way of integrating language learning into your classroom. Teachers, I hope that helped you understand, the different tricks that you can use, different strategies, but also how you can integrate them into your uh, lesson plan. So before we close out and summarize, let's just hear from you. We learned four tricks, right? Four strategies. Which is the strategy that you are most excited to use in your classroom? So use the Q&A section. Please put it down. Which strategy are you most excited to use? So I'll just go back to the strategy page so that you have something to refer to as well. So which one of these four strategies are you the most excited to use in your classroom? So please use the Q&A section to put down your thoughts. We would really love to hear your thoughts. If you want to come off mute, as Vandana ma'am did earlier, please go ahead and raise your hand and we will unmute. We'll give you that option to unmute, but please go ahead and put this down on the Q&A section, folks. Um, which one of these strategies are you most excited to use in your classroom? Interactive games, debates and role plays. Great, great, great. If you want to put down, folks, why you are excited to use this, please go ahead and do that as well. I think that is great information. Maze, mazes, yes. Puzzles and role plays, yes. I think role plays are really fun, especially in such situations where you as a teacher will also have to play a role. So please go ahead and do that. Debates and role plays, interactive games. Yes, for games are one of the best ways to get the student actually interested in learning things. So please make use of that. And there are so many free resources, so many free games that you can just go to Google and type learning games, and you'll get such a big resource. So go ahead and use that. So, folks, thank you so much for your response. I hope these strategies are useful to you, and I see that you're excited to use a few of them in your classroom as well. Please look out for the handout that gives you a few more strategies and other resources as well to learn to help language learn, right? So let's close out with the last few parts of the session to summarize. So we looked at what the reason is for learning, for language learning, that is to develop 21st century skills like communication, being a global citizen, and reading, writing, listening, speaking, using language learning. You can also develop very essential problem solving skills and critical thinking skills. And you can also use some interesting strategies such as role plays and debates and book reports and active games and puzzles and mazes to support and start off language learning. So thank you so much, teachers, school leaders, participants, for sticking with us throughout the session. I'm just going to close out by giving you some information about the academic partners of Varthana. We have two academic partners, as you can see, Lead and Kayan. Lead School is a really helpful tool that helps you, integrate a lot of helpful teaching tools into your everyday life. It gives you it helps you in developing curriculum. It gives you new teaching methods. It also gives you the learning materials such as books and workbooks, and just instructions on how to do certain things. Then we have Kayan. Kayan is a multimedia computer. It's like a projector that the teachers and the students can interact with. And what this does is it makes the classroom learning much more vibrant, exciting, interactive, and much more creative. So if you are interested in this, or if you are just interested to learn more about Varthana and what we do, please go ahead and drop us an email at hello@varthana.com, or just give us a call at 08068455777. So please take a screenshot of this if you want to contact us regarding anything that you read about today, or if you're interested in any of these partners or even a school loan, please go ahead and do that. I hope you had a great time. I hope you have a great weekend as well. uh, Take care.